3, 2. Oh my God.
Yo, what's up?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the program.
Shout out to Airtime, y'all podcast.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have Victor Daviet, all the way from France, joining me on the show. A special episode indeed, as we've lost 3 people in the snowboard community. Alex Pashley, Jason Remple, and a close friend of the Whistler community and of mine, Jeff Keenan. We love you all, and condolences to your friends and family. You knew Jeff. We'll kind of get right into it. You know, you did some filming with him. Victor, first, maybe before we get into Jeff, thank you for coming on the show. Short notice. I'm glad we could make this happen.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, my friend. Such a pleasure to be here. Even if it's definitely a sad week for the community. Love what you've been doing. You love your writing, your photos. I think we're not talking much about your photos, but love them and love you as a human too. Super sick what you're doing with the podcast and the rest. So it's pretty special. So thanks for what you're doing. And then to jump straight into what we were talking about. Yeah, Jeff. I've been shooting with Jeff the past season. I met him 10 years ago with Leanne. They opened the door of their house for the little Frenchie after a sled trip. And yeah, such an incredible human. Super humble, you know. Even if I haven't spent much time with him, it has always been such a special moment all the time, like super open, giving me nice advices about just business or friendship or writing. It has always been like super cool and open. And yeah, last season we went on a trip to during natural selection in River Stoke. We were together with Spencer. We're both alternate. And yeah, Jeff was hyped to film us during natural selection, and so we went on a trip together, the 3 of us, and we had such an amazing moment. And he was definitely super down for anything, you know, down to get the little Frenchie unstuck, down to film incredible clips, down to laugh. And just, yeah, we spent such an incredible week with him. I wasn't the one that knew him the most, but seeing all the support from the community, all the messages from the community was like so incredible the past week. The support Leanne got, and yeah, it's honestly, it's a fucking tragedy. We probably haven't seen that in snowboarding in a long time, or as far as I can remember, I don't remember such a crazy scenario, you know. And all my thoughts to the friends that have been on the rescue on that day. Yeah, they are superhuman and they try their best, and yeah, it's definitely super sad, but all the moments we get to spend with him will be here forever, and I think that's the main point. And we're also gonna be here for Leanne and Kyber, and we're gonna jump on that trampoline to giving some checks, some hugs, and we'll keep writing some power for our friend for sure. And yeah, I brought a little gift for you and for the community. Unfortunately, I won't be here for the ceremony, and I want you to open that specific bottle on that day. So that's a liquor I make with my grandparents. So I go pick up the plants, the genepi plants, up high in the mountain every summer. We make only 50 bottles for friends and family, and I would love you to drink it with the friends on that day on the ceremony, please.
We will bring that. This will probably drop after the ceremony, but that is on the 13th in case this comes before, but I don't manage. I don't think it will be, but we will 100% open that bottle with some amazing characters and individuals at Mount Seymour. So many people on that mountain knew Jeff, were mentored by Jeff. I love what you were saying about it didn't matter what situation you got into with Jeff, whether it was you were stuck or you're sitting in the fog and you were just saying jokes. What I've come to realize over this last week since he passed was just how much I enjoyed him being there. Whether we were on a ferry ride, whether we were at a bonfire, hanging in a parking lot at Mount Seymour, the Brandywine parking lot, the grocery store, he just perfectly read the room and made everybody so comfortable with who they were. Because that's the community of snowboarding is so diverse. And the fact that he could make everybody from a Shaun White figure to a Cody 69, a young kid at Mount Seymour, everybody in between feel like they belong in snowboarding. And this is a special place. And he just had that gift of making everybody be like, if you love snowboarding, if you're about it, like this community is where you want to be.
Yeah, definitely. And also, you know, he gave some amazing opportunities to so many of us. Like recently, all the Full Moon crew, he was there to film every day with his like happy smile. And, you know, I same for us on our project. And I could see like here on Leland and so many others saying like, Jeff gave me a lot. You know, since day one, he was super welcoming for our industry and yeah, gave me a chance, and now I'm part of the community and stuff, and it has been really amazing to see like what he brought to all of us in a way.
All three of those individuals behind the scenes, not necessarily the face of snowboarding in the sense of the rider, which Jeff was an incredible Canadian pro at one point of like in the early 2000s, 2005-ish. Yeah, but all three of them, I mean, Alex, Jason, and Jeff, they all did stuff behind the scenes, whether it was working at a heliop or one of them being more of a team manager, brand manager. And then there's Jeff, who is like maybe one of the most multifaceted snowboard figures, from being a professional to owning his own brand, DWD, which the whole premise behind that company was to uplift kind of snowboarders who looked at it differently, and he was like, you have a place within snowboarding. And he always just, because I think he was that individual, you watch his old parts, they're just raw as fuck, and he's just like, I don't even know how to describe his snowboarding. It was like the perfect balance of like style and chaos. It was like controlled chaos. And like when I think about like, you know, that last trip that you got to film with him and Spencer, that was Happy Losers.
Happy Losers, yeah, Happy
Losers. I'm thinking about like the footage you were collecting there. You're in the interior, and Spencer, who's very close with Jeff, and you're riding like kind of rowdy pillow terrain. And when you think of Jeff Keenan, like that's his favorite shit. It's just like getting on top of some sporty pillow line, maybe even after everybody's already ridden that day. Maybe wearing some fucking crazy sunglasses and being like, I'm going to give this a fucking go. And you're like, I love when the filmer is just about it as much as the riders. And he was that.
We've been filming for 4 days on that week, and he never missed a media lab. And I remember on the way back from the zone, there was like that beautiful pillow line that we weren't filming. We're just riding for fun. And he ripped it with the camera back, and I was like, with the tripod and stuff. I was like, it was insane. I was like, I didn't film it, but I was like, I will remember it forever. I was like, that is so gnarly. And same on our last day, like he had like a few like pretty sick runs, and yeah, that was a nice moment. A video that recently Spencer shared where he grabbed mute. He was like, "Roo, grab mute," and then there's myself stuck in a corner of the video. It's pretty fun memory.
I saw that recently, the post of like he rides down, he goes, was it Mary France Roy that was filming that, or was that Spencer? I forget.
Spencer.
Okay, that was Spencer. And he rides her up to her, I grab mute, and he's all bummed.
Yeah, I love it.
It was so funny because I was out filming and I hit a jump, and Rusty comes up to me. It was a follow cam. And we ride away because I land it, and Rusty's like, that was so sick. Like, he's all juiced up. He's like, he got the clip, I landed. And I was like, but I grabbed mute. And then I saw that post and I was like, oh man, like, I don't know, maybe a little bit on the same frequency. And I think that like one of the biggest reasons why I was always drawn into Jeff is that his style and approach for snowboarding, I always just like really fucked with. I was like, he always like messed with everybody within snowboarding. And I maybe because when I was young, I feel like you have a very narrow vision. You know, you came from France, maybe you were riding a little bit more like, you know, pipe or backcountry. You grow up in Minnesota, you ride more street. Maybe you come from Japan, you're riding like, you know, X, Y, and Z powder. But like, I feel like when you're young, you're like, this is the type of snowboarding I mess with. Jeff from like an early age just messed with it all.
Yeah.
And I think coming from Winnipeg, I only messed with rail riders. And Jeff was like not riding rails anymore. He was only riding backcountry. And it was one of my favorite backcountry riders. And he had like bonus. He didn't even have a full part in like one of my favorite movies growing up in Sandbox. It was like he had the bonus feature you had to go find.
That's
and
amazing.
then, but it was, I almost watched that part with like our whole Gypsy Mob crew more than the actual video because of like the song, the energy, just what he would put into snowboarding. And even though he stopped being a pro snowboarder, every day he would be putting it all into it, whether it's helping others, filming, shooting photos, helping people get unstuck, helping Leanne restart Full Moon, his brand, like, and then making time for himself to go snowboarding. Like he was always in the lift line for Peak. Like anybody who rides Peak Chair when it snows over 20 centimeters, Jeff and Leanne are waiting in line every fucking time.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm sure you have like lifetime memories of those sessions, and this is gold.
Big time. Have you, is this one of your first tragedies? You've been in the mountains for a long time. I mean, when I think about you, first time you would have came on the map for me is probably 2014 in Absinthe, but
to be honest, we've seen like many, we lost many friends in the mountains, but that one feels like really unfair the way it happened. You know, when you're like a pro rider or an alpinist and you're pushing yourself in the mountain like pretty hard, you take like big risks. You're playing a game. You know, we're definitely playing a game. You're aware of the risk, and if something goes wrong, it happens, but you play, you can lose, you know. I had the feeling on that one, it was definitely like super unfair, and the mountain took some close friends, and it doesn't feel right. It didn't do like big mistakes on that day, and I've been pretty shocked on that news, and trying to understand how it went, and of course, if it happened, they did probably a little mistake, but they didn't take much risk, and that's pretty sad to hear, and I never heard about any tragedy like this one.
Yeah, that one's a little bit different. There's a lot of layers to it. It's not just like losing a friend or a husband or a dad. There's a lot. There's 3 people involved. They're all close friends. Everybody out on that day was a close friend. It's kind of impossible to put into words just how it almost feels like a fictitious nightmare. You know what I mean? It's like the worst case scenario, and I keep playing through it in my head, and you try to figure out all these answers. And then luckily I have like some pretty good mentors that have hit me up, because one of them heard me. One of them reached out to one of my friends and then found out like which stage of grief I was at, and I was a little bit angry. I was just angry. I was just like not at anybody, but just that it happened. I just selfishly, because I want all those people around. I didn't know Alex that well, but he's helped me out a lot over the last 3 years, and was somebody I know that like really cared about snowboarding, like as much as me, like just fucking loved it. Amazing. And I heard he was the most ultimate shit fucking banter guy, and I fucking love people who can banter. And I was like, one day I'm going to be in the backcountry with Alex for an extended period of time, and we're just going to have a fucking banter off. Because, I mean, he was the ultimate kind of shit talker. But since you kind of mentioned there was a few other passings in the mountains, I'm sure not one is easier than the other, but since you've kind of been through this before. For many of us, it's our first time or hopefully our last time. But do you have any advice for grief or how you've gone through it?
Honestly, taking a step back, and we have no choice than accepting the situation. We need to accept that we're gonna live with that, and I think keeping the beautiful moments with the person, that's what matters, and trying to help and support each other as a community is super important. Once again, it has been so beautiful to see like all the support Leanne and all their families got following the event. So I think it's what matters, the gold moment, and trying to process it all together.
Yeah, that's almost one of the most beautiful things I've noticed about snowboarding through this tragedy is just how much of a community we really are. And social media, as much as sometimes we hate it, I was glued to my phone for 3 days just wanting to see more stories and videos and behind the scenes. And you also realize just how much of a profound impact all three of those individuals had on this community. Like, they were good fucking people that everybody from every corner of snowboarding loved and appreciated, and that came pouring through and was so evident in the coming days that I was like, wow, this is the first time I've been on social media not being like, what the fuck are you doing on here? Turn off your phone. I was like my wife would be, come to bed. I'm like, somebody else posted about Jeff. I got to read this story. And then it's a blurry photo of him at a bonfire on Vancouver Island. And you're like, fuck yeah, I would have never heard this story.
Yeah.
And you realize that the consistency throughout all these stories is just like how incredible these three individuals were.
Definitely. And talking about like different incidents and stuff. So I've been in the backcountry for now like more than 15 years, and we had like definitely some accidents, some avalanche I got myself, some avalanche, some rescues I've been part of, including Body Merrill's one in AK in 2016. And it's been like some definitely like traumatic experiences that I trying to avoid, trying to learn more and more from the mountains, from different guides, and trying to avoid those situations. I think that's the key. We don't want to repeat those situations. And those negative experiences influenced me to start some avalanche safety events that are now like big part of my riding profile. So now for the past 8 years, I've been organizing avalanche safety events in France, in Switzerland. We even had one edition in Pakistan. And the goal is to gather the community at the beginning of the season. And it's an event for everybody, like every kind of free rider. What about your level? You're welcome. And the goal is to gather everyone, train with like the right spirit and cheap prices, so everybody can afford it. And it has been recently like pretty rewarding, and we're trying to learn all together as much as possible to once again avoid making mistakes, and kind of like learn all together from the best.
And that's Safety Shred Days, if I'm correct?
Exactly, Safety Shred Days events. And now the events are growing. We're having such a good time all together. All the pros are invited, so we have like 40 to 50 pros invited to train for 4 days every winter, which is pretty amazing. It's normally during my birthday, so we have like a big celebration too. And this is how we start the season, and we're trying to expand the event. So now it has been even more work than my actual snowboard career, but just do it as a volunteer, and I love it.
What do you think a common mistake people make in the backcountry is?
Common mistake? I would say it depends on the profile, but the boys, I think we definitely influence ourselves, and we don't really communicate on what we really think is happening on the situation. So like, for example, I don't know, like, I don't feel it today, but I won't talk about it, and maybe somebody is not feeling it, but as a crew we all go, like towards the objective. And sometimes it's not the right day, you know. And I think the influence of the influence of the group is definitely like sometimes negative. And so bringing the communication and your feelings are, in my opinion, really important.
Yeah, I've heard a speaker once on the Craig Kelly incident talk about that. That at the time, guiding, to my knowledge, and I might be a little bit off here, but was that the head guide made all the shots. So if you were new and you were new to the backcountry, your voice, didn't matter as much. Now, apparently since Craig's accident, I'm pretty sure they changed that, like, throughout all of guiding around the whole world, that, like, it doesn't, if you're going out that day with the group, doesn't matter if you're the head guide or the tail guide or the new person, everyone's voice deserves to be heard. And at least if it's heard, obviously the head guide's going to be making the shots, but nobody, whether they're new or in the middle or intermediate or whatever your skill set, should feel like my voice doesn't matter. Because you might be the one looking at that weird cornice being like, fuck, does that like cornice up there matter? And it does. And maybe that gets overlooked. We're all humans. We all make mistakes. And even the most, like, I look at myself, someone who's been out there for, I've been in Whistler for almost 20 years, riding powder and being in the backcountry and being immersed in, at different levels. But every year I go, whoa, I was overlooking something like that. Or I used to not hold enough weight in like this department. For example, like warming wasn't a big thing on my radar until that really got pushed through the risk maturity at Baldface, like in the last 5 years. Like I remember getting warming and being like, oh, cool, it's getting warm, like slushy now. And it's like that temperature change, and when it happens drastically, is a good, sign of change in the mountains.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I think that, the skills you get, that's something important. And, knowing yourself, knowing your skills, learning from like good trainings, like risk majority, safety shred days, events like that, learning from the best guys or experienced free riders. I think it's super important. But yeah, the group influence is like definitely what I pay attention the most, I think.
First off, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do things like that. Pat Moore, when he first started that, didn't have to do that. Especially like, you and Pat, you both started this and you guys are in the peak of your career. You don't need, like, it wasn't like Pat was at the end of his career and trying to salvage it by being like, oh, I got to find a new lane. Same with you. You know what I mean? You started that years ago. So did Pat. And now look at what it did. It's helped reshape all of, snowboarding in some sense.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. And I think it's like super rewarding, honestly. And yeah, I realized that we weren't ready enough. Following Buddy Mayer's avalanche, like we were in the best conditions ever to save them. And it was like a pretty close call. We're 10 pro riders, skilled, guides, heli on site. And it was like really tight.
I'm imagining a bunch of people, like, take us a little bit through that day so we have a little bit of a picture here.
Okay. So yeah, 2 different crews sharing the same heli in Ains, Alaska, 2016. So I think it was the snowboard crew and a transworld crew with myself, Elias Elart, Jason Robinson. And then on the other crew, I think it was Hans Midnick, Louis, Buddy. And yeah, they were riding a different phase than us, but at some point on the radio we heard like avalanche, and yeah, they called us. We had to be part of the rescue, and I spent the summer at Buddy's place the previous summer, so we spent a bit of time together, and we were in the same Salomon team together. So yeah, we definitely knew each other, and yeah, they called us to rescue him as same as their crew, and yeah, we were 10 shoveling our ass off to like dig him out, and yeah, it took a lot of time, and we were in the best conditions ever. We were 10 skilled pro riders. We were like 10 fucking animals shoveling as much as possible, and yeah, it was definitely super intense. When we got him out, he was pretty much purple and unconscious, so it was definitely like pretty traumatic. And I realized on that day, like, wow, we're taking big risk. We know that, but that was definitely a close call. And if that same avalanche happens in, I would say, my own resort, like Arèche-Beaufort or Avoria or anywhere, like we're not ready for that kind of rescue, and it can happen at any moment. And either my friends that have more freestyle background, like either they don't even have the gear with them, like, or if they have the gear, they don't really know how to use it. So I was like, we need to change that, and because we're gonna lose some friend in the community. So I realized on that day, like, yo, put your shit together, go Robin Hood style, collect some budget from every different sponsors you have, and let's start something with the friends. And yeah, so now the goal is to train as many free riders as possible, skiers, snowboarders, and we just gather all together at the beginning of the season and try to learn as much as possible.
If you're curious to follow that, it's Safety Shred Days. There's an Instagram handle there. Big community over there. And when are your courses? How could people sign up? Is it mainly involved in Europe you would do these, or is there?
So at the moment it's in France, Switzerland. So we have 3 different editions, but we're expanding, and maybe one in Canada soon. I don't know. But yeah, through social medias on our site. But yeah, come and join. The goal is to make it as cheap as possible. So if you're young, you don't have much money, you are more than welcome. The Safety Shred Days are made for you.
Awesome. Good to hear. Kind of flipping back, you said that incident happened in 2016. One of the first year I noticed you was 2014 in Heavy Mental at Absinthe Films, and you open that part with an AK line and it pops.
Yeah, we can talk about it. I think
maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah.
I find it interesting because it took until 2016 until someone actually got buried. Because, that one, that clip is fucking gnarly. Maybe take us through that day and like what that experience was. First time in AK, a young Victor being up there and fucking.
Yeah. So yeah, first time ever in AK. What means AK for a young rider from France? I've been, at the bottom of those magazine pages, you have like Alaska, Ains, Alaska, Valdez, like what the fuck are those beautiful mountains? We've been looking at those shots forever, and it was a dream to go there. And yeah, I got the opportunity in 2014 to shoot for Absinthe, for Heavy Mental, and we had a great season in the Alps at the beginning. Being part of that crew was definitely a dream come true. It was the beginning of my international career, so I was like super hyped, trying to like get as many shots as possible. We had a good French crew on that year with Victor Delarue, Mathieu Crepel, Sylvain Bourson, so close friends. So we had a pretty tight crew to do well. And end of the season, definitely the conditions warmed up, so we decided to come to Whistler and arrived in Squamish for our sled trip with Romain Demarchi and stuff. So it was pretty cool already, because I was definitely a big fan of Romain and Absinthe in general. So yeah, it was like definitely a next step, making it to North America. It wasn't my first time, but it was definitely a pretty big deal to be here with such a big production and crew. And yeah, just got out 2 days in the backcountry, and conditions were pretty bad. So we just stayed in Squamish in our hotel and hiked the Chief and waited for the conditions to get better. And once Vlad, the filmer, the legend from Absinthe in Europe, showed up in the room and like, guys, we're going to AK. I was like, wait. Alaska? Like, I always thought in my mind, like, if I go to Alaska, I need to be like ready for it. So I would stop filming for a month and just ride line for a month. And now I've been chilling for 10 days in a hotel in Squamish, and suddenly we're going to AK. I'm like, really? Anyway, my friends are going, Victor or Mathieu. I'm like, I guess I need to go. So ended up going to AK. Same story, pretty bad weather at the beginning of the window. Waiting for a little bit, and suddenly conditions got good. And yeah, on that first day, there was the whole Absinthe squad. Like, We were probably 8 riders. As I was the rookie, I was like, yo, I'm gonna watch first the first lines, and then I will pick up kind of like the rest. And yeah, everybody rode. At the beginning, there wasn't that many signs of avalanches, and I was kind of like confident, you know. I've been riding lines since I'm a kid, so I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then I was with Blair Abnich, and the Ellie dropped us on the kind of like the same mountain. He was dropping first, but we weren't at the same drop-in. So same mountain, different drop-in. He dropped. Apparently, he released something. He released the slab already, but my radio wasn't working. So I couldn't know that he released the slab. So they tried to communicate with me, but you know, at that time there wasn't any drones or anything. So Justin Obstinek was filming from the alley, and you know, I could see that he was staying over me, over the line. And at some point, I was like, what do they want? You know, like, I'm ready for that line. Let's go for it. It's my first line. And yeah, at some point, he just like kicked his foot out of the alley, which is the sign you can drop. Dropped in after 2 to 3 turns. The old face cracked down, and yeah, I was definitely inside a pretty big slab, and I had to manage it. The line was quite easy in the end, in the sense that it wasn't too gnarly with like crazy, like, you know, non-fall zone and stuff like that. But I had to point the avalanche. That was the only option. You know, I couldn't go right, I couldn't go left. I had to point it. So I had a lot of speed, and at the bottom on the Bearstrom, you know, that kind of like crevices, I went from pretty much full speed vertical to a flat. So I bailed on that one, and I knew the avalanche was in my back, pulled my airbag, and got taken by the avalanche. Got not fully buried, but fully buried till my shoulders, which was definitely enough, and I felt really lucky. So it was fine, but it could have been bad because there were some bigger crevices, riders left, and maybe the avalanche could have pushed me into those crevices. So it would have been definitely a pretty fatal accident if it would have happened. But my friends were like, okay, Victor, you got lucky, it was gnarly, but let's go back to the alley. So we had a half an hour break, and Victor and Matthew brought me back into the alley, and we rode faster. But that was my first line ever in AK, and it was definitely a moment. Didn't tell my girlfriend, didn't tell my mother. They realized at the premiere that I was into that situation. It was fun.
Do you remember like the following days after? Did that like kind of spook you? Did you know, when I look at your riding, it's always been, well, one in the mountains, whether it's hitting jumps, pillows, AK lines, like you really do ride it all. Did that ever kind of fuck with your head and you kind of had to take a step back on that? Or did you not really look that into it because you were kind of a little bit younger and you were a little bit more like naive or whatever?
I think I was a bit naive, and I was also like, I knew the mistake we made on that day. You know, you have to know that for the one that are not aware, you're going to the other side of the planet for your dream destination. It's a lot of money. You've been waiting for 10 days into an RV, waiting for the snow to show up. You have a short window. Normally, we would have waited, you know. And our mistake was like, we need some shots. We need to go out and you know, make that trip happen and make the magic happen. So we have been a bit impatient, which is hard to be patient in Alaska because the windows are super short. You want to make the most of your money, and you want to prove you're a sick rookie, you know. So yeah, all in all, it was like definitely we did some mistakes on that day, and I learned, and I was trying to not reproduce them.
I like what you said earlier, though. I asked you, what's a common mistake? And you said something along the lines of communication.
Yeah.
And you look at this heli accident when you're up on the ridge, and Blair hits you up on the radio. It doesn't work. And you're kind of like, what's Hosnick doing? And you're waiting, and there's no way to communicate with you that there's something had just slid because your radio doesn't work. So there's the lack of communication.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess knowing that, what would they could have done? They could have. Were they able to land the heli, you think, and pick you up? Or do you think if you knew that Blair's line had slid a little bit, you would have pulled off that, or you would have rode it anyway?
I think, yeah, it was definitely my call in the end, but yeah, radio wasn't working. I had no idea. I was like, yeah, let's go for it. I think I was focused and I really want to go for it. So yeah, it didn't really matter at that time. I was like, kind of like, okay, I'm going for it. But yeah, communication was a mistake, and we're kind of like rushing the process, which is pretty usual in AK. And you also need to make the difference between like us pro riders trying to film video parts and gnarliest shots, and you that have maybe more time to like chill, relax, and get the conditions when they're really good. I think that's also, I've been a pro for 17 years now, mostly shooting video parts, and yeah, I'm still here also because I think I picked the right day when I'm feeling good, the conditions are good, the crew is good, and yeah, everything is good. We don't burn any steps, I would say. I think you have to respect the kind of process, and if the conditions are not good, you don't go. If you don't feel good, you don't go. But if everything is reunited, that's the moment.
So you mentioned there something about like pressure. You feel pressure from whether it's yourself, ego, and sponsors. Has that changed over the years from when you were younger, that the pressure from your sponsors would outweigh yourself, and now maybe is it less about the sponsors and more about oneself? Because I feel like that's a better way to guide you through the mountains, is to listen to your own pressure, like put that on yourself to push yourself, but also in that area, like you're saying, like line everything up, a good crew, reading the avalanche forecast, know what you're getting into beforehand. But I think a lot of riders feel that pressure of sponsors, and my contract's up this year, and they put that like crazy pressure on themselves. I did well last year, so I have to do well this year.
I'm lucky. My philosophy have been really different. That was definitely, when I explain it like that, you could maybe explain it with a bit of pressure, but I never really got any pressure except from myself, in a sense that to me, snowboarding is my ultimate passion, and it's definitely a game. I have the feeling that I'm 35 years old and I haven't been working yet. We are just kids playing in the snow so far, in my opinion. And I love that. And it's wonderful to live from your passion, So to me, I'm just trying to avoid all that pressure, and I feel good on that day, I will go for it. If I don't feel good, I won't go. And yeah, we have to take a step back on the situation, and you could have the feeling that I'm working hard, and yeah, my friends have the feeling that I'm working really hard, and probably one of the snowboarders in Europe that are working the hardest. But in my opinion, I'm not working. I'm just doing it for the passion, the soul, and to me, it's definitely like the nicest game, And snowboard is the toy that brings me the most joy, and I'm stoked on it. Even if we sometimes the goal is to take a bit of risk, that's pretty spicy, and I love it.
What fuels that risk? Do you have something that when you drop into something that's really pushing you, are you dropping into that line like, fuck you, ex-girlfriend, I'm going to send it? Or like, what fuels some of those things when you're like on the brink of being like, I don't want to do this, but then that thing inside you goes, I'm going to do this. Do you do it purely for yourself, or do you go like, if I do this, like, the premiere is going to pop off, or like maybe one of my peers, like maybe J-Rob's going to shoot me a text and be like, nice one,
I have two sources of pleasure from snowboarding. First one is definitely riding POW and sharing that moment with friends. How fun are those powder days all together with huge smiles and, powder sprays and just boom, 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 like all over. It's just the best. I love it. And those moments are priceless because they're shared. And sharing those moments with friends, in my opinion, it's one of the best feeling, and I love it. And to me, that's one source of pleasure, one source of joy that is really important. Then there is more like the technical part where you have adrenaline and you take risk, and you have one objective, either a line, a trick. You're gonna go, you're gonna surpass yourself. You're gonna go over your fear, and from that you have like crazy, insane feelings, adrenaline, and that's so strong. And those moments, I don't even care about the shot that much. It's just like, I can't do it. I know I'm like reaching my limit. I did it, went over my fear, my limits, and the source of like joy on those moments, clip high, is definitely like pretty intense. And I don't know, we can compare that like to like sex or orgasm pretty much, and we're kind of like hooked on that. And yeah, I love it. And it has been different, like the past 10 years I've seen those objectives like just being a bit different. It was more about tricks 10 years ago, and now it's more about lines, but it could be a pillow line, and now it could be also the nicest artistic shot too, and so I have different like source of joy from snowboarding, and I to think a bit about it, and now it's pretty clear in my mind like what I want to do, and I want that balance between both sources.
How long does clip high last for you? You film a banging clip, you go and do one of those crazy nose grab crails into like, a crazy pillow stack or a front set of Japan and land bolts. Like, does that clip high last for 12 hours, couple days?
To be honest, it used to be way stronger, and now with the time I have the feeling that it needs to be like really, really perfect to get it, and it's interesting, and it's almost unhealthy at some point, but I think I still get it, definitely. I had a couple clips here where I was stoked on, but what I'm the most stoked on is just riding, and if the clip is great, I'm super stoked, but it's not like the most important objective.
What is the most important objective?
To me, it's really having fun on board and go over, push my riding. That's definitely it. And if the shot is great, and if I had a good feeling on that trick, that's definitely the cherry on the cake,
What direction do you want to push your riding in? You mentioned a couple things there, flow. I feel like there's a lot of balance to that question, but what are some areas you would like to really, push your riding into?
So I think to answer that question, we need to go a little bit, to move a little bit in the past, So I started with competing in halfpipe, slopestyle, big air, where I had a lot of fun, but I was kind of like following my friends and a kind of rhythm. It was amazing because like you ride a lot, you build some riding in, and you learn like great tricks. I also met all my best friends, riding comps and getting into those sport school programs. And then I realized that I didn't have that much fun riding contests, but I always been riding the backcountry, every Sunday, because we didn't have parks. We just shape jumps with my snowboard friends, like from the snowboard club. We would just shape jumps in the backcountry to send it, because we wanted to do like the pros in the video parts and stuff. So we started shaping like backcountry jumps pretty early, and I always loved the nature, the mountains. So to me, making the transition from comps to backcountry riding was definitely like supernatural. And I'm super grateful for the opportunities that sponsor gave me and all the riders gave me. To mention, we were on Rip Curl with Victor Leroux together, and the team manager Damien Giraud, Raph Delfour, they gave us like pretty big opportunity to like start filming video parts, and I was super sick at that time. We were super young, and same riders like Bruno Rivoire, Jean-Jacques Cruz. They started a production called Harakiri back in the days, and they were the eldest, and they were like, yo, guys, you're going to be the young generation, and you're going to come and film with us. And it was like pretty awesome opportunity because we're crews too, like, you know. And at that time, the crew factor was super important, and we've been losing that. You have the man boys, it's great. There is BM medals, but they used to have like so many crews, and those crews like definitely like were awesome opportunities. From that, you know, we've been filming 10 years of video parts pretty much, and that was awesome. I loved it, honestly. Like, I'm such a big fan of video parts, and I've been influenced by so many writers that have been shaping my path, and I'm so thankful that I've been watching those videos, because thanks to them I'm still like on board living from my passion, and that's insane, you know. Like, I'm here in Canada playing on snowmobiles to ride the sickest pillow lines I've seen maybe like on videos 15 years ago. That's amazing, you know. But after shooting probably 10 video parts, I was like, you know, sometimes going to the same spot over and over, and I was, you know, it's hard to get the perfect conditions to push yourself a year after another. You know that, you know, like. So at some point I needed a bit of a refresh, and I started to, shoot snowboarding a bit differently with different web series, including Tripolette, where it's a mix of adventure, snowboarding, and ecology. And, you know, it was like, okay, we're going to take a sailboat, our snowboards, and go ride in Corsica and trying to push our riding there in a totally different lifestyle. And we're going to hike our ass off to get those shots and get the adventure going. And that was insane. Starting that series, where I've been shooting like 7 episodes already, pretty much once a year, 1 episode a year, and it has been incredible. You know, traveling the world to meet new people, trying to snowboard a different way, just hiking, you know, hiking for the shots and hiking for this adventure have been like super interesting. And yeah, also starting another series called DVD videos, where it's more a mix of like core snowboard tricks mixed with art. And so the goal on that series is to collab with different artists, either photographer, filmer, writers, musician. And okay, we have an idea, we make it happen. It's going to be a 2-minute clip, and we're just going to do whatever we want. So it's kind of like different than regular video parts, and I've been enjoying it a lot. And yeah, in the coming years, I want to do more of those adventure. Keep shooting like core snowboard tricks for sure, because I love it, but also trying to bring some different stuff, you know, like, in 2 weeks, I'm going to Mongolia to try to ride the highest mountain in Mongolia, and we're going to go to base camp with camels, you know. That's fucked up.
That is fucked up.
You know? And I love it. The fact that it's different, and that from snowboarding I can live like super different experiences. I'm really looking forward to those just new experiences with new humans, and trying to like, to hike for it, you know, earn those turns. And that's a really important factor in the Alps, you know, like people are, want to really like live snowboarding differently, and mostly like speedboarding has been a pretty useful tool to access to the good stuff.
I love when Euros come over to Canada, and then they're so good in Europe. They hike, you know, they got their Nikos and Gigis they were inspired by. Then they get dropped off in BC, and then they're like, all right, like, let's get after the powder. And they're like, yeah, okay, you need to learn how to do this new thing. It's called snowmobiling. And you got to master that craft so then you can actually do this other thing that you're good at, which is snowboarding. And I always feel like Europeans are like, fuck, I have to learn how to do that to do the thing that I'm already good at. And now you're going to go do the same thing on Mongolia. You're going to jump on a camel.
Exactly. But
that's incredible.
Before getting in the snowmobile subject, a big claim here. You have in front of you the best French snowmobiler. Just saying.
The best between all of France or all of France and Quebec?
Oh, no Quebec. No
I
way.
was going to say,
No.
there's some French Canadians.
So it's between pretty much Arthur Longo, Victor Derr, myself, Thomas Delfino, Crepel, a few. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Benji Ritchie was like, "What? You think you're better than me?"
Nah, they're French Canadian. Doesn't count.
JF Pelchat right now just jumped on a table. No.
No, that's definitely a different process, and it has been super fun. It's definitely hard, and it's a pain in the ass to deal the sled. Load the sled, unload the sled, break the sled. Like it's definitely a process that you need to learn, but you access to the best terrain. And anyway, we're bad at sledding. So we just get at the bottom of the pillow zones or kickers, and we end up hiking like we do in Europe. It's just to get closer, because the terrain here and people in Europe need to understand, like, it's not like you guys are burning gas and for nothing. You don't have any choice. I've been to Journeyman Lodge when splitboarding because I really want to ride some pillows, and I splitboarded around 40K that day to ride some pillows. You can't do it every day, And here you need snowmobiles to access the goods, because the access are your valleys. The nature is so big here, and people are having a hard time to understand. But to be honest, I love it here. Now that I know a little bit how to sled, like accessing to all those pillows and those crazy jumps, I think it's amazing. I never got it like really, really good, but honestly, like, it's just the best terrain, and I'm almost thinking about spending a season here because it's almost what I like the most, riding pillows and trying to get some lines. We rode some insane lines with Joe Lax the other day, and I love that.
Yeah, shout outs Joe Lax.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of great terrain here for sure. We've definitely had our fair share of challenging winters over the last little bit. We were having a little parking lot powwow yesterday, actually. And you had some of the older powder figures now. So weird saying older, but, almost 40, not quite. But, like, you got your Renzis and Mark Sollers and Rusty, Matt Belzil, who is 40. So, yeah, a couple 40-year-olds. And they were all talking about, because they've all been here for 25 years riding this kind of terrain.
Yeah.
And then Pascal Gallant was there as well, another French-Canadian, great sledder, brother of Martin Gallant. So there's a lot of experience here in the Pacific Northwest. And they were all just saying about the inconsistencies of this last decade of, like, wind coming in. 8 really kind of sunny, stable-ish bluebird pow days where you get into the Alpine. Rusty was going through some of his old video parts that were like 10 to 15 years ago, and he was like, how are we riding so much terrain in the Alpine and got so much sun with that same stability? You look at some of the old, like, prime, like, Devin Walsh parts, it's like, I don't think people realize how much has to come together to get those shots. If it's cloudy, which it is a lot of the time here in the last 5 years, you can't get into the Alpine. And if the snow isn't good, until you hit 1,700 meters or plus, like, you're hooped. There's no pillows to ride. That's the raining kind of shit layer. And you have to get over, 1,900 meters to get to good snow. And then that's where the Alpine is. So if it's not sunny, you can't see anything. You can't sled because there's no contrast because there's no trees. And it's so... Back to putting pressure on yourself, these riders who come here, especially from Europe or wherever, snowboarders who travel to Whistler in general to film this video part, some people for themselves, which for you as, I think it's special that you seem so genuine where you're like, no, I'm really doing this for me and I'm pushing my riding for me. And if the sponsors come along, fuck yeah, which is a really great approach. I would be lying if I was saying I didn't feel crazy amounts of pressure throughout my career at some points, especially when it was contract year and I'm fear of losing my biggest sponsor that pays for me to do what I love, but also pays for me to put food on the table. And to have that almost slip away, I think for a lot of riders, they start to, like, panic, and then they do things where they push themselves out of their comfort zone. They go up on a day that they typically wouldn't go up. They ride something that they wouldn't typically ride. And so being able to navigate that and take a little piece of Victor here and be like, do it for yourself. No one's watching your video part 100 times like JP Walker and you're turning into a household celebrity going to get paid $400,000 from an epic video part now.
Yeah.
They're going to watch it once. They're going to watch your reel once while they're scrolling through Instagram and watch half your clip and like it and keep scrolling because they like you. And so when you are doing something of risk, really do it for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, first, I'm like super grateful that my sponsors are backing up that philosophy. You know, like nobody could understand, like not everybody could understand. And then it also comes from my background, you know, like I come from the south of the French Alps in a small city with a small snowboard club that wasn't caring much about contest. We were just riding for fun with friends, the snow park, and we just had a bus that would bring us to the resort every Sunday. And we started pretty mellow, and I was really late in the program, saying that, you know, every step I passed with snowboarding, in snowboarding, I was so grateful. And I was like, I started, I got French champion. That's amazing. I never thought I would come to that step. And then you pass to the next step. I've been shooting my first video part. That was awesome. I never thought I was about to do that. And then, I ended up filming with absinthe. That's so gnarly. If it stops tomorrow, I'm hyped. I never thought I would film with my childhood heroes like Romain Demarchi or Mathieu Crepel, or that are now pretty much my best friend. And damn, do you want to go to Japan with Gigi and John Jackson? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course I want to go. And, you know, if it stops tomorrow, I was like, you know, what I've lived through snowboarding, I'm so grateful. It has been amazing. And if it keeps coming, I'm so down for more. But, you know, like, I come from that far and such a, like, small family without any expectations, like, not like champs expectations. It was like, every step that was passed, it was like full bonus, and I take it every day as a bonus. And that trip is like so amazing here in Canada. That's so like, yeah, that's so amazing to be riding such insane terrain coming from Europe. So I'm so grateful for every step, and I'm so thirsty for more. But yeah, I have no pressure, because like if I look back, I was like, damn, what I've lived thanks to snowboarding is so amazing. And I met so many amazing humans, rode so much POW, went to the craziest places with a snowboard. And yeah, it's just like so beautiful.
I think a lot of people don't realize that if you put hard work into something, eventually you will have a decent run at it, or a run at least that you should be like hyped on. I hope everybody at one point of their life puts 10,000 hours into something just to like experience that, you know, whether maybe it's drawing when you're like 65, but like it is an incredible thing to get like pretty immersed in one thing.
Yeah. I was same as you, man. Like trying to go as big as the pros. That was my goal, and trying to copy their style and stuff. Like, yeah, that was definitely like what I wanted. And yeah, through the process, I learned really what was making me happy. I told you about it, like about the different sources of like happiness and stuff. But yeah, and now I love every facet of snowboarding. It's just, I learned how to have fun with a snowboard and a slope, you know, carving. So amazing. Powder riding, amazing. Kicker, amazing. Line, amazing. Park riding, love it. You know.
That's definitely a testament to, if you're younger and you're listening to this, or older, to follow that passion. And if things unfold, you know, enjoy the ride. Because that's the most amazing shit. 21 years old, living under a table in Whistler, not knowing where you're going to get your next paycheck to like survive. And you're dreaming of one day buying a truck and a sled and getting out there. Man, enjoy those fucking times under the table with the shitty truck. Like those are the best times.
Definitely. That's follow your passion is definitely like the best.
Let me ask you this. You've traveled more than most who are listening to this. I would say 99% of the people who are listening to this have not experienced such a well-traveled life to so many different and amazing countries. But I wrote down 10 quick questions here to get a little glimpse into some of your favorites, you know, some advice to the travelers who may be listening to this show. As many of us, you know, people like to hit the dusty trail. What's your favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Favorite place ever traveled to? Japan is definitely like pretty high on the list. But I would say Pakistan has been a crazy adventure for me. On a trip to Pakistan, because following that trip, I had the craziest story of my life. Yeah.
Would you care to share that craziest story of your life in Pakistan?
So it's a pretty long story, but yeah, craziest experience of my life.
I think we gotta hear
Related
it.
to snowboarding. So yeah, got on a totally different trip to Pakistan 3 years ago. So Pakistan, crazy, huge mountains, millions of people. There's 223 million people, and there are only 3,000 skiers. So we went with a non-profit organization called Zom Connection. Some guides from Chamonix, some friends, started that non-profit. So they collect gear in the Alps and they bring it to Pakistan to develop the winter sport there. So I was definitely going with like alpinists and guides on a totally different trip. I was going there to teach kids how to snowboard, distribute snowboards, and to just train them. So I ended up on that totally different trip. You know, it was like with a non-profit, like with friends going there in the unknown and split board a bit. And yeah. So I ended up in different places in Pakistan, including some really tiny valleys where some ride with like wooden skis and stuff. And I would teach like little girls for the first time they were allowed, because they were Muslims. For the first time they were allowed to practice a winter sport activity. So I had like a crew of 10 little girls teaching them snowboarding for the first time, and it was like in the middle of nowhere. It was unreal. And also we matched with a snowboard event there, in Malam Jaba, you know, the international Pakistan competition, snowboard competition in Malam Jaba. You have a two-seat chairlift, and that's it, just on a hill. And it was like international because the Afghan snowboard team was there, one Belgium guy, ourselves, and some Pakistani riders. And we're in the same hotel than the Afghanistan snowboard team. And I didn't know what to expect from the Afghanistan snowboard team, you know. But they were here to compete with their official team. And yeah, we started to ride together during the trainings, kind of. And yeah, I was really surprised to see that really official team with like riders with zero experience. They were like, they could barely ride, like barely turn or anything. So I was like, that's pretty impressive. And they are so hyped on snowboarding, and they were really curious too, because it was the first time they would meet a pro rider. So yeah, we started hanging out, drinking teas at night, and yeah, we started to create a relationship together. And after the week, you know, the contest happened. Some did good, and I had like close relationship with them, as I've been kind of like coaching them for the first time. And yeah, following that, I was like, guys, I want to go and ride with you in Afghanistan and document your story, because you're awesome. You know, you're terrible at snowboarding, but you have so much motivation, and you know, like, they're so fresh and naive, and it was so beautiful what they were creating with their really proper Afghan snowboard team. You know, they went on the podium wearing suits and stuff. It was like, we never seen that, so it was like pretty insane. Following that, so we're preparing the trip with the boss from the federation, the president, and yeah, 6 months after, we're preparing the trip, and I just received a call from Afghanistan. You know, I couldn't see who was calling me, but I could see the country, Afghanistan. Picked up on the phone. I was in bed with my girlfriend, 8 a.m. I knew I had to pick up that call. And it was the president of the federation saying, yo, Victor, the Taliban took over the country. They sent us death threat letters for snowboarding, because we have been snowboarding, and it's the new political regime is not allowing us to snowboard, and we've been supporting men and women equity. So we need to leave as soon as possible the country, and we need your help. We need any kind of help. And at that time on the news, you can see that millions of Afghans were trying to leave the country. I don't know if you remember, but you were seeing on the news like Afghans trying to like grab the planes and falling off the planes because they were trying to leave their country because they weren't safe anymore following the Taliban took the power. And I knew those riders, and seeing that they could lose their life because they have been snowboarders was to me like unreal in 2022. So I was like, there is no way I let those kids that are so down for snowboarding die for this. So I tried all I could to help them, and through social medias we gathered a crew. Then we created the non-profit for them called Snowboarders of Solidarity with Jérôme Tanon and other friends, including lawyers from the US that I never met. I just met through social medias. And we gathered that crew and we helped 14 of them to flee their country. So can you imagine, like, you're 20 years old, between 17 to 25 years old, you have to leave your country. You don't have any money, no more families, no more studies, nothing. You leave everything behind, and just because you've been snowboarding. And they were pretty much rock stars in their country, like kind of like getting famous for being skateboarders and snowboarders. And from a day to another, like, you lose everything and you need to leave because you've been snowboarder. So I started to like get really deep into that cause, and we helped 14 of them. First 7 of them like got spread out all over the planet, including a few are now in Canada, in Toronto. And then 7 others got stuck in the country when the US Army left the airport. And so they were definitely stuck in Afghanistan, trying to hide each other in their house to hope that nobody's going to knock at their door and stuff to potentially like punish or kill them. So we tried our best with the whole crew to help them, and we transferred them to Pakistan. They got stuck in Pakistan for a year. So we created some crowdfunding to like lodge them, feed them, trying to find a visa for them to go anywhere in that country because they have nowhere to go. So it has been like insane. Like, it was the most insane mission I got into in my life, and I was trying to find visas for their kids, trying to call embassies, trying to do everything I could, gather thousands of euros to help them. And one day, by a podcast, actually, by a pretty famous podcast in the outdoor industry, a little girl listened to the podcast I recorded, and she said, "Yo, my mother is a lawyer specialized in refugee. You should reach out." And 2 weeks after, they were on vacation in Annecy, my hometown. So we get to meet. And she was like, "Okay, I like your cause. I'm going to help you." She did whatever she could to help me. And after months, we got the authorization from the French government to like accept them. So we got a visa so they could ask for asylum in France. But they were about to give up. Every day they were like, every week they would call me like, "Yo, Victor, how was your day today? Do you have any news for the visas?" Well, I was organizing events. I was studying at that time. I was, managing my snowboard career and stuff. And it was like quite a lot of pressure for sure on my shoulders, knowing that 7 kids are waiting for your answer to like probably keep living or not. It was like definitely like super intense. And once that lawyer unlocked the situation, and we went with Jérôme Tanon with my mother's van to Paris, from Annecy to Paris, so like 5 hours with a 9-seat van. And they showed up at the airport, and now they are our new friends. They're like my kids or my friends, like my brother or sisters. And we developed a super strong relationship where now they started their new life in France. Most of them are in Annecy. They studied French. They asked for asylum. They're part of our community, and we shred all together. And now it's definitely, it has been super hard for them, to be that far from their family with a new culture, creating a new space, a new life here in France. We have been like as supportive as possible, but it has been a pretty crazy journey for them. And now the story is definitely, it's such a beautiful story, and it's the craziest story I lived through snowboarding. It's like I never experienced any tricks that was like as strong as this. It was like, when we're talking about adrenaline and clip high and stuff like that, all that story was related to snowboarding, and the joy we got all like to like save them, and now the relationship we have. They're probably gonna try to go to the Olympics soon and just represent their country, not the Taliban. To represent Afghanistan as a political act and show that they're against that political regime is like definitely like, pretty strong. And now Nassima is my sister. We hang out all the time. Mushawar and Nisa and Soj, and they're all like such great kids, and they didn't deserve that, all those changes, and it has been definitely like the most insane story. And now we created Snowboarders of Solidarity. So if any snowboarders needs help, we're here to help, and the kids are gonna help too. They're gonna take over the nonprofit if they can.
Damn. Talk about maybe everybody who's listening to this, maybe we should all just take a minute to be like, look at how good we got it. A lot of times I feel like we all just complain about X, Y, and Z, and it's until a terrorist organization takes over your country and threatens to kill you for snowboarding, you really, that really hit, where I was like, damn, like, and then they had to leave their home and their family like forever to not potentially get, like, do you think that was a genuine threat, like where something bad could have happened if they would have stayed there? Like, that's how...
Yeah, definitely. Like, I don't know if you're aware of the situation, but like millions of Afghans left because they weren't safe in their country anymore. We're talking millions. And now at the moment, the girls are not allowed to like leave from their house. You're not allowed to study. You're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to go out of your house without a man or without jalaba and stuff. It's definitely like really, really hardcore, and like nobody is doing anything. And they're just seeing their family pretty much, and sisters die there. They're like, the Taliban's consider women like pieces of meat, and yeah, that's definitely terrible, and we need to fight against that. We can't have like women suffering from that political regime. But it's not the priority on the planet for our Occidental countries, and it's definitely super tough for them. They're talking to their families every day, and they're suffering. So yeah, so that was definitely like the gnarliest story I could ever get into, and it just came to my shoulder on one call. I was like, we need to help those kids. And what I got from that story is definitely solidarity is strong. The links we have with the community is insane. In the outdoor industry, it's like pretty solid. And I'm nobody, I'm just a pro snowboarder and trying to help. But in the end, I would have never thought it would have worked, but it worked. And I think that everybody can help each other in a way, because if I did it, everybody can do it. That's the feeling I got from that story. And from a contact to another, we help them. And I have the feeling that, every person was a little piece of rope, and from those tiny piece of rope, we built a strong one and got them out of the situation. And that's that's the beauty behind that story, is that if I did it, like, everybody can help each other. And yeah, I would have never thought it would have worked, and it worked out. We got so lucky. It's insane. So that's kind of like the short version of the story, but Definitely, like, I think it was like that trip to Pakistan when I went randomly, like, to teach snowboard to some little girls in Pakistan was definitely like the start of like the gnarliest story of my life.
What was the feeling when you picked them up from the airport with your mom's van? Like knowing you did it, like they're here.
So that was half of the story. I didn't know that. To me, they were like, okay, they're in France, they're safe. We're so happy for you, and it's great, my friends. But then there was the second part. Integrate and start their new life and help them through the whole process, losing everything and recreate everything. That was the second part. And now I have the feeling that we're just at the end of that whole action. And yeah. But yeah, going to Paris with French flags and bringing them to the Eiffel Tower and having their first dinner in a nice brasserie, but we forgot that they weren't eating non-halal meat, you know? They were like, obviously, Victor. You know, they're not going to drink beer and eat pork, you know? but yeah, so we've been learning so much from each other. And yeah, now they have a nice, solid base in France. They're part of the community, and now they're hyped for snowboarding, which is insane. Nassima sent us a message 3 days ago, like, Victor, when are you coming back? I want to snowboard. I'm going to the Olympics next year. I need some proper training. And Nisar, you know, doing his first hand plant in the pipe 2 days ago. And, you know, I don't know. It's just like, it's so beautiful. So, yeah, that's definitely when you asked the question, what was the most memorable trip? Like, definitely this one marked my life pretty deeply.
Well, there's so many things. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for bringing the fact that you went on that trip because you loved snowboarding, and snowboarding helped facilitate potentially saving these 7 people's lives is like, makes me feel so proud about like that snowboarding did that. Like, cause you would have never went there if it wasn't for snowboarding.
No.
You're like Afghanistan. Like, I think Craig Kelly and a group of people went there back in the late 90s or early 2000s maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
And even me, I'm like, damn, like when you look at like a topical map and you're like, damn, like it looks fucking good over there. It looks like there's a lot of like good mountains. And you're like, oh, but you don't go there because of that. The fact that you already kind of knew that like that place has been in chaos for a long time, but the fact that you're like, I'm going to go there anyway. And then you give the fact that you see these people and meet them, that's the reason why you help them, is because you had that relationship with them and you're like, no, I met that person.
Yeah.
Like, I have to get this person out of here. And when you create borders around countries and stuff and you no longer let people in or out, they become not real. And when humans don't become not real, that means you stop being empathetic and compassionate to other people. And those borders that we're building up everywhere around the world are like, they're not good. It was like when COVID happened, not to bring up COVID, we don't even have to go there, but I think we can all remember the borders that got put up, and they didn't help. Like, people started being like, you're right, you're wrong, let's not talk to each other. Families fell apart. It's like, people need to realize that there's more common ground between us than we'd all like to admit.
Yeah, definitely.
And I love that analogy you said about building a rope and pulling them out. Like, if we all could just realize that, like, we're different, but we all want the same things in life, you know?
Yeah, and especially with traveling for snowboarding, you know, I've been to Turkey, Israel, Corsica, New Zealand, Pakistan, Afghanistan. Like, wherever you go, you have that connection for whatever, like, your political opinion, your religion. We have a connection between each other for those codes, that passion for snowboarding, you know, and it brings like a lot of love together. And I don't know, like, yeah, we've been really connected, and we're all connected. And going back to Jeff's story, like, look what's happening on socials. Like, everybody is like, is looking for the same thing. We're part of the same community. Whatever, everything happens, and yeah, it's beautiful to see.
That was an amazing story. Well, I do have some other questions, but they just seem insignificant now after that profound story.
Yeah, sure. But when you brought that one, I was like, we're in a podcast. We need to talk about that one because, yeah, if I have a story to tell, that was that one today after Jeff's and showing some love for the community for sure.
I think everybody who just listened to that were like, damn, that's a real story. That's like when you listen to a snowboard podcast, it's cool to hear about like, oh my God, like Truth Smith did this and this Devin Walsh switchback 5 the mother, and like that stuff's cool. It's the coolest shit ever. It's never going to be as cool as saving 7 people from Afghanistan cool. That was fucking cool.
That was a life mission.
That's magic.
And I didn't force it. It just like came on my shoulders. And yeah, just now it's like looking back, it was insane.
Yeah, I mean, every day you have an opportunity to help somebody's life. Like, maybe not as profound as what you did, but as we all walk through life, you make decisions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can open the door for somebody or you cannot. You can, and the ripple effect of just doing good for others is so profound. And if somebody has a good day because of you, then they help somebody else have a good day. I hope, kudos to you, and hopefully through hearing this message on the podcast, that ripple effect, which it will be, is already profound. Everybody who's listening to this right now is like, fuck, I gotta get out there and help somebody, man, or do something awesome. And it's true, you should.
Yeah.
Standout memory, which is my next question from one of your trips, other than saving 7 people from Afghanistan.
Best memory. Going to Norway with a car that runs with veggie oil a few years back was definitely a super fun challenge, and seeing our old Citroen ZX with spoiler with a champagne color, next to the fjords was definitely super special.
I think, given I want to ask you a couple more things here, and I know that you have to get on a flight with who?
With Pearly, my love, the photographer Pearly. He's.
I kind of wanted you to touch on him just because he's one of my favorite photographers.
He's definitely a legend. We love him, but he's a little bit grumpy, and I know that if I'm gonna be late for that flight, he's gonna be mad at me.
Okay, so we're gonna move through this a little quicker. So just for our audience that's listening, we're gonna try and wrap this up in 15 minutes. This should be like another hour, but we're gonna get things moving here. Okay, unexpected beauty. Just what comes to your head when you traveled around the whole world. Where's one place where you went and you were like, damn, I wasn't expecting this?
That's a tough one. Corsica, it's super famous. It's an island south of France, super famous in the summer, but I was never expecting anything good for snowboarding, and we scored like 30 cms of POW after hiking in the mountains for like 7 days, and it was a pretty crazy experience seeing dolphins on the sailboat on the way back and stuff. That was definitely super special.
Nobody's bummed on seeing dolphins. All right. Where would you not go back?
Where would I not go back? Maybe the US at the moment. Sorry, Trump. You fucked it up.
I try and not, back to the borders we build up, I try to remove if I don't value or back, and just think about like, the US is 10 times the population of Canada, maybe more. It's like there's 10 times more assholes, but there's still a fuck ton of amazing people there. So you should still go back.
Sure.
Best and worst food.
Best food. I love Mexican food. I love Japanese food. I love Indian food. French food is pretty good too. Worst food. Definitely Nicaragua, but apparently in Mongolia, where I'm going, it's like pretty bad too. Like meat soup for breakfast, like sheep sheep soup for breakfast and stuff like that. We heard it's gonna be interesting.
Just bring hot sauce and salt. You're good to go. Oh, that's another thing. We had a great conversation the other day. A little bit of a sidetrack here, but it's fucking epic. How lucky are we to have spice racks? Everybody's got a spice rack.
That's amazing.
You know what I mean? I was thinking about the other day. I opened my shelf and I was like, damn, there's a lot of spices. And I was like, wait, this is from every corner of the planet in my cupboard. And I was like, damn, that's kind of crazy.
Same here. I love spicy food.
Best architecture.
Best architecture. I think the Scandinaves are pretty good. Let's be
Best
honest.
people.
Best people. Let's say Japanese. The respect they have for everybody is insane. You know, when we step out of the restaurant and they thank you and you thank you again and they thank you again and again and again and again. It's just so beautiful to see.
Yeah, you go on a train there, no one's playing loud music,
Yeah.
nobody's being annoying. It's like everybody respects that everybody's on that train, and you don't know what kind of day the person beside you is having. Therefore, we should all just get on the train and be respectful of everybody on that fucking train. You go on a train in Canada or the US, dude, it's a fucking zoo. You're like, people are playing the banjo, vaping, smoking joints, being like, fuck you, dude. You're like, this is insane that people treat each other like this.
It's kind of like the same in Europe too. So yeah, it's pretty beautiful to see the respect they have for each other.
Okay, on your bucket list.
On my bucket list, I think it's definitely the next trip that I'm on to, like
Mongolia.
going to Mongolia and with camels. That's gonna be insane. And yeah,
Is Pearly shooting that?
no, unfortunately, it's gonna be a mission. Pearly is kind of like my little princess and doesn't like that kind of mission. You know, crazy splitboard missions. He likes that little, like a bit of comfort. But he loves Mongolia as his girlfriend is from Mongolia. Bigger boo boo.
Yeah, I like snowmobiling, but I like coming home at the end of the day. And then there's some people that are like, I'd fucking camp out here. Not me.
Yeah, that's a 2 week mission camping by probably at the moment we checked and it was -35. So I hope we're gonna survive there.
Oh, it's going to be a trip of a lifetime. Okay, just to steer this back to a little bit of snowboard nerd stuff for a quick one here. 2 or 3 of your favorite shots you filmed over the years, and why?
3 shots. Okay. The Transworld years were pretty good. I really liked those years. We were like, you know, the one more block crew. That's how people would call us. We put a lot of blocks on that planet. That frontside tree on a gap in Austria was definitely super special because it was quite a big gap. I think I was the first one to open it ever.
The ravine one? The huge one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I kind of like shaped it like really briefly and I couldn't speed check. So I kind of like took one spot, went for it, front side treated it, first try, and boom. You know, when that clicks and you're like, whew. I didn't camp too short because I was about to break both knees and I haven't been too far. And I just at the right speed, right time. That was a definitely special moment.
Were you scared to hit that gap? Sorry, that gap to me stands out. That was a heater.
Yeah, that was definitely special. I think, yeah, we were used to take a lot of risk on kickers at that time. But yeah, that was, I knew like if I would have fucked up, the consequences would have been pretty bad. And when you, after those thoughts, you know, when you stunk first try, it's just like, oh, yes.
Yeah, totally. Because that means you're a mathematical, calculating machine.
And then, you know, that's that source of pleasure we're talking about, you know, where like, you know, I was at the bottom of the landing, like shouting, like of happiness, like, wow, you know, it was insane. So yeah, that was pretty special. I think from the eternal beauty of snowboarding, that backside 5, that Jerome documented really well, Jerome Tanon. I don't know if you've been watching the eternal beauty of snowboarding, but that's definitely like one of the favorite movie ever I've been to, because he put all our bullshit story in one movie, and that was some golden years, and he documented them really well. So yeah, that backside 5 where it was like pretty, trying to bring some style as much as I could on that trick was like, that was pretty special. Probably because he documented it and he put it on the cover. So that was definitely like a trick I will remember. Then a bit earlier, some like definitely like either double corks from absinthe, or even earlier, the year before was probably my best year ever, stomping like frontside 10 first track in the backcountry. Or
What's before the absinthe part?
So we've been shooting for Harakiri and Almo Films, and even during the absinthe years and after during the Transworld years, we're doing both. Almo Film, which is a production made that a former pro snowboarder, Morgan Lefaucheur, started, and Alban Gelen, former team manager from Salomon. They started a movie production, a snowboard movie production, and then there was another one called Harakiri, also made by pro snowboarders. So those two were where we built our skills for the backcountry with all our generation. And yeah, Almo in 2013 I had like a pretty good year with like pretty sick tricks, and Victor was filming for Absinthe at the same time at that time and was using the shots from Almo for his video part and stuff. Yeah, we were shooting everything together. Yes, and so that's the third one. It's hard to say, but let's say, yeah, cap double cork, triple backflip, or frontside 10 first track. It's hard. We've been sending it on a lot of jumps, so it's hard to pick. But yeah,
I'm going to give you some props here. I rewatched a bunch of your footage last night, and this morning, and you are such a well-rounded backcountry rider. From like the grabs you do in Japan off of a popper, to the lines you've ridden, to the cab 10 double, or the front 10 double to cab 10 double. Like, man, you have been absolutely destroying the backcountry for a long time and riding every single type of terrain the backcountry has to offer. So
thanks, man. It means a lot.
Thanks for all the hard work, man. I think we've only been together in one video, like an old Transworld video, and I didn't even know I was going to be in it. And then they put our clips in it, and then they took the clips. They just I think they just picked some clips from me, and it was like not the clips I wanted to be. You know what I mean?
Shit.
And I think for both of us back then, if I can go on a short tangent here, just how big of a deal it was to be in Transworld if you weren't from the States. So Canada was already big, but if you were European and you were in Transworld, it was massive. If you were from New Zealand and you were in Transworld, or anywhere, like, it was a big deal because it was an international magazine, and it was like the biggest. I mean, Snowboarder Mag at that exact time, maybe it was a little bit bigger, maybe it was a little bit smaller, whatever. They were equal, we could say. But you were in 3 Transworld movies.
Yeah.
Like boom, 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 2015, 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
And great parts. Like, that magazine helped put so many international faces on the map.
Yeah, and yeah, I was a big fan of their movies back in the days. And being able to shoot for Transworld, Absinthe, Pirates, all those productions was definitely the best highlights of my life. And yeah.
All right, I'm going to speed things up even faster here. We have a Scandinave bath pass for you whenever you come back to Whistler.
What?
Have you been before? Do you enjoy it?
That's the best place, man.
Yeah. So the next time you're in
the
town,
crew has been. I couldn't go this year, but I will keep it for sure.
Let me know
you,
anytime you're back in town to reach out to me. I got a bath pass for you. Also, for your trip, if you need some headphones, we got some Skull Candy Dime Evo headphones. Grab a pair of those.
Thank you, my friend.
A big shout outs goes to our Patreon. If you support the show, thank you so much. All your money's going towards our Airtime TV series. If you haven't watched Airtime TV, it's a massive bite on 411. And lastly, K2 Snowboarding, who sponsors the podcast. My favorite board right now is the Alchemist. I ride it in the park. I ride it in the backcountry. I know it's a backcountry weapon or an all-mountain weapon. Not so much for the park, but I ride it in the park and I love it. So, I don't know. Check out that board. We got 10 questions for you before I send you off before Pearly hates me. These ones can be one-word answers because we'll get you out of here.
Sure.
All right. Who has the best tweaks in snowboarding?
Nico Miller.
Who is the best pipe rider?
Oof. I liked Kazoo back in the days. Danny Davis.
Best style currently, back in the day.
Best style currently. René Rekinen Gas. I really like this recent project. Best style back in the days. Devin Walsh.
Damn, you're doing the correct answer.
Yeah.
It comes to Canada.
No, I was a big fan of you, Devin. I never met you, but loved your writing. Big inspiration.
Maybe quick side note, really quick this time. Early inspirations. We didn't talk too much on it, but like maybe a couple videos you really binged and a couple super pros. You mentioned Roman, maybe a couple others that you really looked up to.
So my first video wherever I got was TB7. Random tape that my mother got from like the the tobacco store, or kind of like where you would buy the magazine back in the days. And then Pop was a big influence, all the Transworld movie, MacDog. But definitely those movies were a big influence. And in the writers, Jack Blauvelt, Gigi, Romain, Nico Miller, Kazoo, Mikkel Bang were pretty much the same age, and he has always been in the foreground and was definitely at the sickest style. All those writers were big inspiration for sure.
Correct answer. Favorite rail rider?
Louis.
Correct. Dude, you're killing it.
Louis is definitely, in our team at Salomon, he's like the raddest, and the legacy he carries is definitely insane.
You got a legacy too, so pat yourself on the back. Are you good at that? Do you pat yourself on the back, or are you pretty hard on yourself mentally?
Yeah, pretty hard on myself for sure.
Well, I'm going to say, dude, just as somebody who is also very hard on themselves, just relax. You're doing fine. You're saving people.
Thanks,
You're saving people, brother. Just fucking give yourself a hug. What keeps you up at night?
Keeps me up at night. Je n'ai pas, my friend. That's how you survive in the Alps.
Is that so? That liquor that you're giving me to bring to Jeff Keenan's celebration at Mount Seymour, that is from the juniper berry?
So it's a flower that grows in the Alpine, in the Alps, and it's kind of like mushroom spots. Every family has their spots, and I make just 50 bottles for friends and fam, and here's one. It's pretty special. Like, we make a label every year with different artists around us. For example, Arthur Longo made one, Niels Schack made one, Mathieu Georges made one, and it's just a friendly project that we take really seriously. And it's a pretty tasty liquor, and I hope you're gonna have a sweet taste for the ceremony.
Thanks again for that. Who has the best turn?
Ole Nivelt. We've been analyzing that. His sprays are insane. Like, everybody makes pretty big clouds, but his clouds are just like twice bigger than anybody else. And he's the raddest, How come you can have the best power surf company and he's still ripping on the board, and I don't know, mad respect. And he's shaping all our boards for Salomon, which is pretty dope.
If you could be a master at another craft other than snowboarding, what would you want to be a master at?
At the moment, it would be sailing, I think. I think sailing is just the purest way to travel, and traveling with the wind, and I think it's just so beautiful, and I think I would be stoked to learn more sailing. Currently, we're all the pro snowboarders in France. We're into paragliding, which is pretty sweet, but I think sailing is definitely the fanciest way to travel.
The best place you have ever snowboarded?
Best place ever snowboarded. I mentioned a few, so I want to come with something different. And best place. Let's say where I started snowboarding, Réalon, in south of the French Alps. I was a tiny kid, and that's where I had my first turns and first grab, and that's the sickest view you have on the lake underneath. And yeah, I'm really thankful for that spot.
I think everybody, when you go to your home mountain that you grew up riding, there's just that special feeling you get, and you hope they have like the old poster still on the wall or whatever was hanging there. You hope they didn't remove all of that stuff. It sucks when you come back and then all the nostalgia has moved away, and you're like, at least the runs aren't too different, but like if the lodge still can hold a little bit of that like oldness, do that, I think. Career highlight.
Hanging with natural selection, the past 2 seasons was definitely like super cool. The story with the Afghans was definitely, I told you already, but my highlight. And yeah, I have so many highlights to come. I can't wait.
French goat.
Wow, Guillaume Chastagnol back in the days. He was in TB7, my first video. So he's my goat. We have Nico Droz. We have Mathieu Crepel. My friend Victor Leroux. Longo, of course. Damn, hard to pick. I can't pick between all my friends. Sorry.
All right. Who is the overall global Earth goat?
I want to come back to the previous one. Mega shout out to Marion Hertier also. I didn't mention her in the list, but she has been bringing a lot to French snowboarding and girls in general, and she has been super close from Jeff and Leanne, and she recently got seriously injured here, and yeah, she's fucking badass, and the words she put out recently were beautiful. So
yeah, they really were.
Yeah, they really resonated, and yeah, so big shout out for, maybe she's the goat at the moment in France.
Who's the overall goat?
Overall goat.
Your goat.
My goat. We were talking about it with friends yesterday. Definitely what Travis brought to the community is pretty insane. The energy he puts into his riding at his age, plus the fact that he developed natural selection, which is the sickest contest, and he has been ripping for video parts, free riding, pillow riding. I think overall he's pretty insane. So yeah, big shout out.
Victor, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing that amazing story. Thank you for navigating this, I was going to say snowboarding, but I don't even think that, navigating life in a very meaningful, purposeful, and inspiring way. An even bigger fan from this conversation. We don't want Pearly to hate Airtime Podcast because we're the biggest fans, so we're going to let you go. To everybody snowboarding right now and kind of going through it with this recent passing, we love y'all. And
I love you all. On vous aime, les amis.
I mean, the one thing that I've been kind of saying, I think a lot of people do this when people pass, is I kind of been doing what would Jeff do? And just because he was such a good person, and I want Airtime to kind of embody Jeff, just because I feel like he was so good for snowboarding, and Alex and Jason and everybody. But yeah, I hope that I can move Airtime in a way that he would be proud. So take care of each other. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Big love. And have fun in Mongolia riding camels.
Thanks, and merci snowboarding. It has been amazing. Thanks, Jody.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. See you, everybody.